Okay, I'm gonna switch to للترجمة. You're gonna stop hearing me now, so you can go ahead and start the session.
Okay, sounds good. Daniel, can you let me screen share?
Oh, hold on.
شو؟ قاعد الدور.
You can share now, Shireen.
Okay.
طيب شباب حولوا للعربي هلا. هاي شغلت الترجمة هلا.
Okay, good to go?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right, everybody. So today for our third session, we are going to be learning about teaching team strategies.
طيب اليوم راح نتكلم عن تعليم استراتيجيات الفريق.
And basically the point of this is not really to
والهدف
teach
من
you
هاي
what strategy you have to use with your team. You can use whatever strategy
والحكي
you
هون
want.
مش
This is more
إنه
so
نحكي لكم إيش
to
لازم
talk
تستخدموا
about
بالضبط.
some of the basics and then
بس
talk
راح
about
نمشي
how to
على بعض
teach your team
أساسيات
these kind of things.
الاستراتيجيات.
And so
ونحكي شوي
the first
كيف
thing that I always
يمكن
start
نعمل
with
على تدريب هذه
after teaching
الاستراتيجيات.
individual skills, which we talked about last
احنا
week.
حكينا المرة الماضية عن المهارات الفردية.
Sometimes these
فهلا راح
shapes
نمشي على المهارات
will differ based
الجماعية.
on what kind of strategy you plan to use.
فطبعا
For the
بيختلف
most
إيش نوع
part,
الاستراتيجية راح
ultimate, we
نستخدمها.
use triangle
في
shapes.
الالتيميت نحن عادة
So
نستخدم
for big, strategy, I think it's good to teach triangles. Last
عادة
time we
نستخدم
talked about the
استراتيجية
4 line
المثلث.
drills. I think
المرة
this
الماضية
is
حكينا
great
عن
to use
تدريب
when you're
الأربع
teaching these
خطوط.
basic cutting shapes. So you
كثير
can
هذا
do
مهم
dump cuts,
لمساعدة في
medium cuts,
تدريب
long cuts, whatever you want in this
الكاتس
4 line drill.
المراوغة.
We talked about this
الخطوط
drill last
المختلفة
time
للمراوغة.
when we were talking about throwing to space. But here
حكينا
I
كمان
sort
المرة
of made
الماضية
this
عن الرمي
Playpedia
للمساحة
animation
المفتوحة.
so you could see,
فشوفكم هون الحركة
what it
بتصير.
looks like when you're doing various cuts.
كيف
So you'd have
فهنا
4
بفرجيك
cones,
كيف بيكون الحركة
lines
لما
behind
تعمل
each of the
أكثر من
cones, and the
قط
throwers
مختلف.
are on the outside.
شايفين الأقماع
And then you'll start with one form of cut. So this one, the first one that I typically start with is an upline cut.
أو المراوغة.
And so you just have the middle cutters cut upline and the disc is thrown to them. And then once you throw, you'll go to your opposite cutting line. And then this shows, okay, well, now you can teach also medium cuts. So same kind of deal where the middle cutters will cut out and in for a medium cut. And then you can also do it with deep cuts. You would just push the cutting lines into the field. And then you can have your players cut deep. So altogether, you have ways to practice all of the shapes of the cuts. And again, it can be any cut that you plan to do with your team. And this is just a good way to have everyone run through them over and over. And you as a coach can watch people and correct their angles, cutting shapes, that kind of stuff. I like to utilize this at the beginning of practices, so maybe just after they warm up. This also is good to warm up their throws and their marks and stuff. You can put marks on these throwers on the outside. There's other drills you can do too. I think this flow drill is really great, especially if you're teaching a vert stack. So basically you would have, 3 cones out into the field. And perhaps you as the coach can throw the first throw if you don't have enough players. And your players would cut out and in. Oh, sorry. Is something happening? Can you hear me?
You're good. Yes.
Oh, okay. So this flow drill, you'd have 3 cones out, and you would go out and in, you'd catch the frisbee, the next person would continue, and then the deeper person would continue, and this just kind of practices your flow. You can use this also if you play a horizontal stack. I say a hoe stack. It's really good to just practice these shapes of the out and then the in. These triangle shapes. You can also add a deep cut at the end. This YouTube video shows the drill in motion.
فشوفي مثلا هيك هاي الحركة الانسيابية كيف بتكون الحركة
So
السريعة.
it's really, you're just slowing down and you can see the triangle shapes of the cuts.
شايفين كيف الحركات بتكون باص هون.
And these are good to do before you even teach your full strategy, before you even teach a full vert stack. Just getting the players comfortable with these shapes is really good to do.
يتعودوا على الحركة تبعتهم.
This is another variation of that flow drill you can do. This is more of a continuous cutting concept. So you'd have 3 cones out, but everyone would be in line sort of in the middle here. And you can have, you can have an out cut. So the 2 here is going out and a continue, and then a dump cut, and then you do it on the other side. So this way you're kind of cutting in a circle and you practice your backhands and your flicks. So this is good to just practice throwing to space, getting these shapes, having your players practice catching and throwing.
يمكن مش فاهمين
so these are all good like initial things to do when you're just talking about teaching cutting shapes. And again, I would recommend teaching shapes before you teach a full team strategy.
عن القط للمساحة المفتوحة، عن المراوغة، وعن الحركة الانسيابية المستمرة في اللعب.
Okay, the next thing that I typically teach before teaching a full team strategy is teaching dump movement. Typically, your dump movement can be used across all of your strategies. For example, if you play a vert stack and a hoe stack in the same season, typically your dump movement is going to look the same. Right, whether you're playing a vert or a hoe, the concepts are the same. So I always start here. It gets people, again, moving in space, practicing angles, practicing shapes, and throwing, right? And you're not taking time in the beginning to teach a full team strategy before you taught the basic concept. So this is a great basic concept to teach, and it'll be sort of like the foundation for your other full team strategies. So these are some options of dump movement. Again, these are not all of the options that you can have. These are just examples of things that you could teach your team. The first one is a give and go. This is typically when dump is on the open side. But this is good to teach. For example, if you're playing a vert stack, it's really useful in a horizontal stack. Sometimes teams play split stacks and it's not like as useful in a split stack, but we can talk about that if we ever do advanced things. But this video, I think, shows some good give and goes. So here you can see the thrower, and you can see the dump on the open side over here. So you can see the mark forcing him flick. And he looks over, and what he's going to do is he's going to give the disc to the dump, and then he's going to go up line. So this is the give and go. You can see now he's sort of beat his defender and he's taking this open space over here. So that's one dump movement you can do. And I put a little Placepedia thing here too, but it's the same thing. So give and go. Another option is a 90-degree cut. This is also on the open side. So a lot of players will try to go up line on the open side. It makes it really hard for the thrower to throw past the mark. So I always teach my teams to go and do this 90-degree cut. So it's basically a perpendicular cut. And this is what it looks like on Placepedia. So just like that, super simple. And this is something you can practice in 4-line as well if you run that drill.
اوكي فسوت عملت الخط على الشمال بعدين مشت لزاوية 90.
There's also this concept of a wheel cut. I think other teams call it something different. I call it wheel. Basically, it's the dump cutting behind the thrower, and then the thrower would throw it to the dump once the dump gets on the break side. So here's an animation. So you can see here, they're being forced backhand. This dump is on the open side, and they're just cutting behind. And you'd want to have them throw it, once they clear the thrower. So they should be on the break side when they get the frisbee. And then, of course, you can just have an immediate swing. So this is pretty simple. You know, if the defense is coaching off or in the wrong position or something, you can just swing it. So these are good to talk about open side. I like to break it down into open side and break side. So people can understand, you know, there are differences when you're on the break side as a dump versus when you're on the open side. So I'll typically teach open side first because it's typically the more complicated one. You have more choices here. Break side is super simple. You can just throw this in after you teach the open side. Basically, your only options on the break side are really to go up line or to get an immediate swing if the thrower breaks the mark. So, you know, this strike cut that we saw with the give and go, that's really the default when you're on the break side.
Shireen, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you explain the break side and the open side for some of the coaches?
Oh, yeah. So open side means that you're on the side of the thrower where the mark is. So if you're being forced flick, and the dump is on your flick side, the dump is on the open side. Break side means you as the dump has set up behind the mark. So here, the mark is forcing flick, and this person is set up behind the mark. So they're on the backhand side, so they're on the break side.
بينك وبين المعه الفورس. فلما تسوي حركه البريك سايد انت بتحاول تكسر البريك انك تكسر حركه الهجوم حركه الدفاع.
Again, break side is not super complicated. There's really only two options: the strike cut or the immediate swing. One strategy you can have is after a strike cut, you can tell your team, and this is what we do in Texas, to have a fill into that space from the field, and that's something that you can drill. Some people will also, if you're playing a host back, have the fill come from the far side of the field if there are three handlers. It's up to you how you want to do it. Whatever way you choose, you should definitely drill this movement. So talking about where the fill comes from is really important. And it can be a basic concept. I like to keep it very simple. So what I will say to my teams is, when a dump leaves the space they were in, we're going to have a cutter fill from the field. And that's our just basic standard concept that we operate on. It's good to keep things simple and communicate those early so you can get that in people's heads whenever you're drilling. Okay, the fill is coming from the field. Me as a cutter, I have to be looking up and seeing what the handlers are doing. So this is an example of how we do it in Texas. So here, this person has the frisbee, and she's going to swing here, and then she's going to leave the handler space. And what we do, you can see she's about to leave. This cutter is looking, and so she's going to fill the space once she has left. So these are things you can drill, and I'll show you that again. But that's just the way we do it. So once this person left, we're not having this far side person come across. We have someone from the field coming back.
راح تعبد المساحة المنطقة اللي انفتحت لما اللاعب.
And here's Playspedia showing that.
هون كيف بيكون شكل على Playspedia.
So, and these are simple things you can drill. So for example, here, you could just set up a drill where people are just practicing this movement. So you could have 6 people on the field, and then you just practice this strike and fill, and then have the handler throw it. And it's super simple. You can do it with a small amount of people. Just drilling these concepts over and over again, I think, is very important. And having a solid dump set for your players is really important, because then they'll be able to reset the frisbee. And it's sort of like the core of everything you're going to do when you're teaching team strategy. Early in the season is I have to run these dump movements over and over again without a defender on the dump. So we'll keep a mark on the thrower, but no defender on the dump. And we'll just have them run, like cycle in lines and just run through the movements really quickly. And then we'll practice groups of 4 where you put a defender on the dump and people are trying to get open and you're practicing making those movements with pressure. It's super simple. It can get a little bit tedious for your team, so I wouldn't spend like an hour running through these drills, but doing them quickly in the beginning of practices is really good, and then practicing these shapes in 4-line is really good to do, just to keep them, you know, up to speed and make sure you're repping it as much as possible.
خصوصا في بداية الموسم البطولات العلمية.
Okay, so now we can get into the full sets.
عن الست
الكامل
أو اللي هو بنسميه
and we've taught dump sets.
الطابور
So once you know those two things, like once they have those basic concepts,
لما يفهموا كيف أساسيات المراوغة والتخليص يقدروا هلا يتعلموهم هجوم اللاعبين السبعة.
vert stack the way that my teams typically play when I'm teaching like youth players or early college players. You don't have to run, this is by no means the standard. I think you can run whatever vertical stack you want to run. When I coach higher level players, we typically don't start with a dump out. We do a no dump vert, but it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. So this is just an example. When I'm first teaching an offensive set, I will typically use a whiteboard and draw it out for the team. I think it's really good to do that because a lot of players are visual learners. So you want to make sure that you're providing some avenue for people who are visual learners to succeed. And so I think starting there and then getting on the field and walking people through it is the best technique that's worked for me over the years. So first we'll start with the whiteboard and we'll just draw the basic concepts of the offensive stack. And then we'll get on the field. And I'll just put 7 on the field with no defense, and we'll just walk through the set. So we'll walk through a full vertical stack, different scenarios with the dump set, et cetera. And you can answer questions as people are walking through it. I would get everyone on the field at some point, rotate people on, have everyone walk through it very slowly. And then you'll never have to do that again. But doing it one time, I think, is very important. So here are basic vertical stacks. We have our cuts coming from the back of the stack. And then on our team, we clear into the third spot in the stack. So you can see in this drawing, you know, some sample cuts. We would have like the last person in the stack cut under into the open side. And then maybe the next last person would go under on the break side and deep and then continue under. Here's some animations kind of showing like our basic movement. So you can see the vertical stack here, no defense. We would have the last person initiate, the second to last person be there, continue. And you can see here that this person is clearing to the third spot. And then, you know, you can run through some dump motions. So here, you could walk through somebody making a strike cut or something like that. One thing that's important to practice is having people move the stacks down the field when the disc moves down the field. And so I think it's important to talk about that early and practice it early and slowly. So here you can see as they go through the motions, this dump cut is happening. So we have this 6 striking. And that means that the frisbee is going to move up the field, which means that the stack has to move back because there needs to be space between the cutters and the handlers. So as the disc moves, right, as this person gets the frisbee, you want to practice having your team also move back. And so this is a really important concept to do when you're teaching your offensive sets and when you're walking through them. A lot of people skip over this step and then it gets really messy on the field and they wonder, oh, why isn't our stack organized? And it's because you haven't practiced adjusting to different situations. So this animation kind of shows with defense what that would look like. So let me go back. So we have our stack. This last person is going to cut under, so out and in. And then they're going to get the frisbee thrown to them. And then this whole stack is going to move back to reset.
بعدين كل الستاك راح يسوي ريست. شايفين كيف كل حركة طابور سوى ريست. كل رجع وين في المحل.
So you want to practice these things slowly and walk your team through it.
الأمور بشكل بطيء
And then again, you can practice, you know, that clear cut, strike cut, swing, whatever you want to do. So yeah, so once you've walked through everything, I think then is a good time to put some defense on. And so what I'll typically do is put the frisbee down. We don't start with a pull. We'll start from a stop disc, and then we'll have everyone run at like 50% with defense. So very slowly, run through the concept, run them through scenarios, and then start to pick it up and go a little bit quicker with your stop disc. So without pulling the disc, you know, we'll keep going through these concepts of the vert stack, and then at some point you'll get to 100% with the stop disc, and then you know, okay, it's time to start actually scrimmaging. Some more sample drills you can do. So this is that flow drill we talked about before, except here the players are moving down the field as if the stack is resetting with every downfield throw. So you can see they're moving down, moving down, moving down. So this just practices that motion. That's a really good one to do in the beginning. This is an example of running through different scenarios. So if you don't have a full 14 at practice, or you don't want to run like a full 14-person drill, you can do these smaller drills that just practice different scenarios that you would have in a vert stack. So here, this scenario is going to practice an up line cut to a deep throw. And I typically put defense on every position here, so this would be a 6-person drill. So your setup, you have 3 lines, the thrower, the dump, and a downfield cutter. And then you'd have, you know, the dump go up line, the cutter go under on the break side, and then a deep throw, right? And so this would practice defense as well as offense. And you're just practicing the scenario that could happen when you play a vert stack. So running through these scenarios is really important, and it's also fun for your team to do things like this where it's not, you know, a full 14-person scrimmage and people are getting a lot of reps. They're getting to practice throwing deep, running deep, but you're also practicing team strategy, which is this power position huck scenario. Another example of a scenario that you can teach is some dump movement. So here you have a dump. So here you have a person that's in the front of the stack, and let's say sometimes this happens, right? The thrower will just throw to this person when they jut out. So here we're practicing, well, how does the dump adjust to something like that? So when this dump is on the open side, they're moving across to get out of the way, and then we'll have a continue cut. And then you'll have these players move down. So if you watch the dump here, they're on the open side, the disc moves downfield, they've cut across, and then the disc is going to move down again. Now we have this concept of, oh no, we have 3 people back, we should have only had 2, so we're having our players practice having one person clear into the stack. So this is just an example of running scenarios that also practice handler movement, not only cutting movement. And you'll see, you know, once you start scrimmaging, or if you're watching film, you'll see things that happen over and over and over again in these sort of setups. And so it's important to drill those things. Or if your team is having trouble with certain movements, you can go back and drill it in these small-sided drills just to practice that very specific scenario, and it'll help your team to implement it when they're in games. This is an example of teaching a skill that's really important in vert stack. So not just the motion of the cutters, but also a throwing skill. This is called the triangle throwing drill, and it's practicing throwing a break side throw off an undercut, which we do a lot in vert stack. So here we have 3 cones in the form of a triangle, and then we have 1 cone that's a little bit deeper off the top of the triangle.
على شكل الواي شايفينه زي بينزل لتحت.
This person back here, this number 4 person, this is typically a coach. So this can be you, and you would just have a stack of frisbees with you, at least the number of frisbees as equal to the people in the stack. So here, you would have at least 8 frisbees. And then you would have an offensive person and a defensive person. And what the offensive person is going to do is they're going to cut to the cone and back, and they're just going to ping pong back and forth, back and forth. This defensive person is going to have to go to the further cone and follow this offensive person. And as they're going back and forth, this coach is going to dish the frisbee. Once they get to one of these 2 cones, they're dishing the frisbee out. And they're going to have to throw past the mark to someone cutting under. So this is what it looks like. So they've gone out, this defender has gone to the furthest cone, and this back of the stack is going to cut in. The coach is dishing to the person at this cone. This marker is trying to get over and prevent this throw from happening, and this thrower is going to try and release the frisbee as quickly as possible to this undercut. And then this person runs out of the way, and they do it again on the other side. So they're going back to the other side, out, in, and in this scenario, the defender got a hand block. So we can see that again.
هاي الحركة كمان مرة.
This is really great to practice these quick releases, this vert break side movement, and it's also really good conditioning. So especially if you don't have a lot of players to practice, like let's say 10 players show up, this is good to do, and it'll get them some conditioning, get them on the field, practicing these shapes. So we did this a lot and I do this a lot with college players or like youth players to practice these skills as much as possible. Okay. Now we have the horizontal set. This one is a little bit more complicated than a vert stack. So if you're teaching both of these sets, I would probably start with the vert stack and then move into the horizontal stack. But it's up to you however you want to do it. When I teach horizontal stack, I try to give people basic principles. There are a lot of scenarios that can happen in a horizontal stack, and it can get very complicated. So it's easier for your players to digest it if you just give them basic principles. So my number 1 principle when I teach a host stack is you are in front of the frisbee in the open side, you should clear. Number 1 rule. Okay, and that's something easily digestible that they can remember and implement. And I'm not saying, oh, if you're on the open side, you have to cut to the break side and then go deep and then take your defender over here. You don't want to give them really long, complicated rules. You just want to say something like, if you're in front of the disc, clear. And that's easy to remember. So here is just some basic like shapes and things that you can teach with host stack. This is the way that Texas plays host stack. It varies. There's a lot of ways to do it. But we go with this concept of, okay, this person's in front of the frisbee, they're clearing, and we clear under and across. And then we have these triangle cuts that will then continue. So here you can see clear under, across, triangle, triangle. These videos will show you some of the movement. So here, this is a shameless plug for my women's pro team that I used to play on and coach. This is the Austin Torch. So here, this person is a cutter, and she's standing in front of the person with the frisbee, so she's going to clear across. So you see her clearing across. And now you can see this person was also in front, so she's clearing across. And then we have our continued cuts. So here's this person going across. And this kind of is just what our host stack looks like. That's me. So
فهيك شكل
yeah,
الطابور
it looks different for a lot of teams. I think just getting some film and figuring out what you think would work for your team is good. And we just do this concept of triangle cutting, and I think that's easy and translatable from the vert stack. So here you can see it again. This person is in front of the frisbee, so she's going to clear across.
Hi, Shireen.
And then this person, yes.
Sorry, I have to leave in 10 minutes, in 20 minutes. So I don't know. We can keep the videos for them and they can go over them, but I feel it would be good for us to finish the slides.
Okay, I'll go next slide then.
طيب اسمعوا الفيديوهات موجودة على السلايدات تقدر تمشي عليهن واحدة واحدة.
Yeah, so same with the horizontal stack. Here, whenever you get these links, you can look at some of these drills.
But the same concept
of running through scenarios and different things that would happen on the field is important. And then again, if you have fewer numbers, you can run, 6-person drills running through certain situations that would come up in your offensive sets. After you teach the full team sets, it's important to teach an end zone set. I typically end with the end zone set. But you can do it however you want. Some people teach end zone before the full team. It's up to you. This is just an example of our end zone set. Again, I would teach it with a whiteboard before you get on the field, and then get on the field without defense and walk through it. And the same concept as the host stack, give people basic rules. So end zones can also get very complicated. So when I teach an end zone set, I say basic rules. So our rule number 1 is the first person in the stack is the isolated cutter. Okay, that's the priority. And I don't tell them, you have to make this certain angle of cut, you need to be this far away from the throw or whatever it is. I just say the basic rule at first, okay, because I don't want to overwhelm people with too much information. The second rule I have is our fills in the dump space come from the front of the stack. So this one is easily digestible because we already have the concept in the horizontal stack of a fill coming from the field. So here, this one is easily translatable and it's easy to remember. Okay, if the dump leads, the front of the stack is going to fill the space. And then our final basic rule is the back of the stack. So I'm not, there are certain situations where you would have someone else in the stack continue. But the general rule is the back of the stack continues, and that's what I start with. I don't go into hypotheticals, complicated situations, what if this, what if that. No, the first time you're teaching an end zone set, give the basic rules and then put them on the field. And then as they start to figure things out and things come up, that's the best time to answer questions because people have experienced the issue rather than you running through a bunch of hypothetical questions before they even get on the field and overwhelming them with too much information. So this is just an example of our end zone set, and you can look at these videos, but this is rule number 1, the first in the stack, rule number 2, the fill from the field, and then rule number 3, the back of the stack continues. So drills to teach end zone, I just like to do games to 7 or whatever it is, and so you put a cone a little bit outside of the end zone, and then it would be make it, take it, you sub between points, and you would just have them play end zone games. Another good way to teach end zone is a double score. So once they score, they have to go back outside of the end zone and run their end zone set again in order for the score to count. And then one fun drill that people love to play is called bank it. So you play a game for 7. The offense can score over and over and over again until they choose to bank their score. If they don't bank their score and they turn the disc over, all the points they scored before it are gone. They don't get any points. So it's fun because it's like a little bit of gambling and people like to play it. I don't know. So if you feel like people think that end zone is tedious, you can come up with fun ways to make these scrimmages fun. And then the final step you know, once you've taught all of your team strategies, you can start teaching them
لما تعلم
plays.
كل هاي الاستراتيجية
So
بتصير
depending on your
تعلمهم اللعب
team skill set and level,
بتبلقوا
you can
بالمبادئ
teach them a
الأساسية
variety of
الحركات
plays. There are some plays
بعدين
that are
كيف
very
بتصير تعلمهم
simple. Some plays
استراتيجيات
are a little
أو
bit more
كيف تعلمهم
complicated. It just
سيناريوهات
kind of
للعب
depends on what your team is able to do.
بيعتمد على فريقك
When I
وإمكانياته
teach plays,
وقدرته
again,
بتصير
the
لما
same
أنا بعلم
method. I'll
سيناريوهات
do
زي
a
هيك
whiteboard, draw
بعمل
it
في
out,
الأول لوح أبيض
get them on the
برسمه
field
بشكل
without
معين
defense, walk
خليهم
through
يكونوا في
them,
الملعب بدون
and
دفاع
then
بمشي
we'll do
خطوة
something
خطوة
is what we call a 5-pull. So basically, defending team would pull the disc to the offense. They would run down and defend the offense when the offense does their pull play.
بسوي شيء اسمه
And then if the
دعم
disc turns over, you can stop the point and redo it,
إنه الديسك ببلش
or you
إنه
can give the
الديسك ببلش
defense a
من البول
possession.
طوال بيكون
But
5
we don't play the
مفيش حاجة
whole point
للهجوم
out.
ما
So if the
بيكون في
defense
حاجة
turns the disc
للدفاع
over,
إنك كيف
you
بترمي
know, the point would
البول
be over.
بعدين أنت نفسك
That's a way to
بترمي
get
بتحط
them
البول
practicing these
لحالك
plays
يعني باعتبار يعني
multiple times in a row
تعودك
without having to
كانت
play out the whole
تعود
point and
اللعيبة
wasting
إنهم
time.
يلعبوا هاي الشيء بشكل
So
مستمر يعني
that's one thing you could do when you teach plays.
هذا الشيء تقدر تعمله
These are
لما
just
تعلم
examples of
سيناريوهات
plays that you can look
مختلفة
through.
هون كمان
But this would
أمثلة
be an example of
للسيناريوهات
a very simple play that kind of
فهنا
mimics
سيناريو
your offensive set
سهل
already. So if you're playing a
لأنك
host
هون بس
stack,
يكون الهجوم فعندك هون
your
طابور
plays
أفقي
could just be your default host stack movement. And that's going to make it really
بتكون
digestible
الحركة
and easy for your
وهون
players
بتكون
so they're
عندك هون
not having to
الحركة
remember a lot,
الاعتيادية ما
especially
بتعلمهم
if they're
كيف
younger
حركات
players.
جديدة
So
كثير
here,
تعطيهم
this would be our
سيناريوهات
default
مبنية على
movement
حركات
anyway
بدنية
in a host
وهاي
stack, and so we
الحركة
just call
الديفولت
it
الاعتيادية
a sweep
لهم
play or a double sweep
بتسوي
if we have 2 people
هون
clearing, but
شايفين كيف بيسوي
this is
كلير
our basic
بفضي
movement and it's really easy
بعدين
for people
مثلث
to
قصير
digest and
بعدين
implement.
مثلث طويل
The same thing for a vertical stack. You know, you
هاي
can
كمان
run
تقدر
things that are your
تعملها الحركة
basic
الانسيابية الدورانية
standard
هاي
motion.
كمان
So this one is an example of a
العمودي
of a play we
كيف
call
بيسوي
tumbleweed.
الخط بيمسك
But
الديسك
they don't have to
بيتحرك
be very
على
complicated.
اليمين
Really, this just helps your
مش
team
بالضرورة يكون
get the disc
شيء
moving.
معقد كثير مهم إنه الديسك يتحرك
And this is an
الديسك
example
movement
of a more complicated play. So this is a
هون
flood
مثال
play,
لحركة شوي معقدة
and you can look through
اسمها
this when you have the
الفيضان
time. But,
الفلاد تقدروا تعملوها لما يكون
and then the final thing I wanted to talk about was ways
واخر شيء
to practice these concepts if you don't have a lot of
إنه كثير
players
مهم هون
at
إنه
practice.
تعملوا processing
And
تحليل
so
وتفكير بهالأمور
what I like to do is small-sided scrimmages, and I'm sure you all
فأنا
do this all
بحاول
the
أعمل
time, but playing
إني
3v3,
كثير إنه كنت
playing
تلعبوا فرق
5v5,
صغيرة 3 3
2v2 here, these are all great ways to get
هاي كلها
players
طرق منيحة
playing with each other, developing some chemistry, getting
تعود
touches on the
اللعيبة
disc.
على يفكروا شويتين على الأمور كلها
There's a great
يكون
there's a great drill
حركة
called
زيادة.
circle keep
بس كل
away
ما طلعت
where
اللعيبة
everyone is
معك
in a
تلاقي على
circle
الملعب
and there are 2
3 أو
defenders
5
inside the
كده
circle
تجمعهم
and you're throwing to people in the circle. You can't throw to the person next to you, and the defenders are trying to get a D. And this is great for focusing on throwing in tight spaces, and then as a defender, you're focusing on working together with the other person to generate a D. So this is great, especially if you play a host stack. This is a drill called down the lane, where you would have 2 lines of cones, and people will run down the line and do give and goes. So you're just throwing the frisbee back and forth down the lane without dropping. So this would practice like hammer motion if you have like a breakaway motion. Variations, you can add a defender, so you can do 2v1. You can make a lane bigger, make it a 3v2 or a 4v3 situation. So that's a really good one if you don't have a lot of numbers. And then hotbox, this is probably my favorite small-sided drill to do. So you can do 1 box or 2 boxes, and the whole point of the drill is that you have to score inside the small box. And depending on your player's skill level, you can make the box as small or as big as you want. I typically will make it very small, so like a meter in between or something. And this just works on quick movement. If you're doing the 2 boxes, it works on fast breaking, so switching the angle of attack, things like that. So this is really good with when you don't have a lot of numbers, or if you need to practice quick movement. This is good to do. And then scrimmage variations. Again, you can do things in scrimmage that will drill some of the concepts that you're teaching in your offensive sets. So one thing I like to do if we're playing a horizontal stack is to do a swing scrimmage. So you'll put cones about 7 meters from each sideline, and the team has to catch the disc in both zones before they can score. So So that practice is using the width of the field.
تفرض اللاعبين إنهم يمسكوا الكورسات يعني في هاي اللعبة.
And then, you know, stall
بس على
5,
أطراف الملعب مش
stall 7 scrimmages, practices moving the disc quickly and looking at your dump soon. Double score practices end zone in a full scrimmage situation. So if your team scores, they have to take the disc back out and run an end zone set and score before they can count the point. There's a scrimmage variation called free hell. That's good for mental toughness. So it's a game to 3, but every time the score ties, it goes back to 0-0. So if you're trying to get your team to be better about holding their break, like generating a break and holding it, or as they go up, keeping the intensity up and keeping, you know, like scoring as much as possible once they have a momentum shift. This is a really good one to do. And then we don't have to go through these, but you all can look at these videos and then kind of try to decide what went wrong with the offensive team strategy and how could you drill your team to make it better. And maybe we can answer this question the next time we're together. We can come back and talk about ideas on what went wrong and how would I drill this at practice to make it better, to make my team better. Does that make sense?
فاهمين الفكرة هون؟ شوف الفيديوهات، شو اللي صار غلط وكيف تقدروا تحسنوها. يعني راح أكمل هلا كمان.
That's all I have, Daniel.
ممتاز. Wow, this is okay. I guess we can watch some videos since we have like 5 minutes. إذا حدا عنده أي أسئلة ارفعوا إيديكم. إذا حدا عنده أي أسئلة عن اللي صار لأنه مشينا بشكل سريع. فإذا حدا عنده سؤال نرجع لأي شغلة ارفعوا إيديكم. Yeah, if you want to go ahead, Shireen, and show a video. I think here. Actually, before you do, Muhammad, تفضل. You have a question.
يعطيك العافية.
حبيبي محمد.
اليوم يعني قد ما حاولنا نركز وهيك الأمور يعني صعبة شوية. هنرجع للفيديوهات تاني الموجودة ونركز معها تاني ونرجع نترجم تاني عشان نفهم. اليوم كانت الورشة في شيء يعني صعبة شوية، يعني في شغلات لحتى الآن مش فاهمينها، بس إن شاء الله مع الفيديوهات أو شغلة مش فاهمينها نتواصل معك على الخاص تاني توضح لنا إياها.
شكرا محمد.
دانيال.
أيوة تفضل ألين.
سوري قطعتكم، بس المخططات اللي انتم كنتوا حاطينها جد بتعقد. يعني مثلا احنا اللي فاهمين الاشي المخططات كتير بتلخم، فاكيد رح يكون صعب عليهم انهم يشوفوا غير عن انه الواقع.
ايش المخططات
اللي كنتوا تسووا لنا اياهم هاي الحركة وبالاسهم والاشياء.
اوكي
يعني جدا بخربش.
صعب جدا. صحيح
صح. المشكلة صح لأن أنت ما بتلعب اللعبة بشكل مستمر راح يكون صعب. مش مشكلة محمد، امشي عليها. أنا راح أترجم لكم الملفات هذه وأحطها بالعربي يمكن تكون أسهل. وقت عندكم أي أسئلة بنمشي عليها شوي شوي. إذا حابين أنا نعمل جلسة مع بعض بس أنا وياكم بس يكون بالعربي نمشي عليها مع بعض يعني بسيط. نقدر كمان نضبطها مع بعض.
ما هو فيش يعني في شغلات نضطر نرجع لك فيها. يعني هذه الورشة يعني أنا حرجع أحضرها تاني كمان.
خلص ممتاز.
وهي شغلة مش فاهمها حكتبها وأبعث لك إياها توضح لنا.
خلص ممتاز ممتاز. أي حدا عنده أسئلة اسألوني. ممكن أحاول أعمل ورشة إضافية نمشي على هاي السلايدات كمان مرة شوي شوي. يمكن إحنا شوي استعجلنا بحكم الوقت والتأخر اللي صار في البداية. Shireen, they were just saying that they're kind of overwhelmed with the content. They were not kind of used to the animations and the arrows and so on. They were kind of not used to that kind of way of teaching. And like fundamentally, it has to be in the field, you know. So I suggested that I might run a second session with them, an optional one, where I can go through these slowly with them in Arabic without the translation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think if people have like specific sets that they do run currently, then maybe we could come up with some drills. Yeah, like that are specific they already do.
اسمعوا محمد أو ألين أو حد ثاني، إذا عندكم سؤال معين لإشي هلا مرقنا عليه معنا 5 دقائق مينيموم نقدر نمشي عليهم مع بعض. هلا حدا عنده ألين أو محمد عندك سيناريو معين؟
مش أسئلة، يعني أنا الشغلة مش أسئلة، هدول الأشياء كلها إحنا كنا نطبقها يعني. فأنا فاهمها، بس عن جد المخططات كتير بتلخم، يعني أنا متأكد عقلهم متشوش 1,000,000%. فهذا بس اللي كنت بدي أوضح لكم إياه.
اوكي، طب خلينا نلاقي حل لهي المشكله اللي فانه
يعني
خلينا نمشي على
لازم يكون
مخطط
في على
معين.
الأقل تطبيق عملي، يعني هو لسه لو في الملعب تحكي لهم لا بتسووا هيك بتسووا هيك، بكون كتير أسهل عليهم من هذا المخطط. يعني الأسهم رايحة في كل مكان، فهم مش عارفين أصلا وين يركزوا صراحة.
انا فاهم ألين، عشان هيك انا سالت خلينا نمشي على مخطط معين حتى نحاول نفهمه مع بعض. Can we do a scenario, Ali, Shireen, just one of the graphs, the arrows, and see if you can work with them?
Yeah. Like the dump movement?
خلينا مثلا نمشي هون مع بعض. Yes, let's do the dump. So dump متذكرين الدمب اللي هو ايش سميته انا، ايش ترجمناه للتخليص، كيف انا بتخلص من الفرق. هلا شايفين الاكسين. I'm going to try to explain this in Arabic. شايفين الاكسين هون على الشمال. Can you highlight the give and go? هاي الجيف اند جو حكيت لكم هاي بالعربي اللي احنا بنسميها بالعربي ال 1 2. عندك الاكسين هون، عندك الاكس اللي على الاسود وعندك الاكس الابيض. فعندك الاكس الاسود هلا عشان يمكن هاي مش واضحه. تستهمل I think they don't understand the arrows, the blue and the red. So الازرق اللي هو الباص، والاحمر هو الحركه والركض. فالاكس الاسود بعطي باص الازرق للاكس الابيض، متابعين معي؟ وبعدين الاكس الاسود بيمشي الخط الاحمر لقدام، والاكس الابيض بعطي الباص هو الازرق والركض هو الاحمر. فنفس الشيء في الامور كلها. مثلا نروح على رقم 3. الاكس هو الاسود هو مع الفرس، بعدين الاكس الابيض هو الفاضي اللي مريح، فبده يساعد اللي معه الفرس، فبده يسوي لك الخط هنا المراوغه السهم الاحمر، بعدين الاكس بيرمي الفرس بيرمي الفرس اللي هو السهم الازرق. فاهم علي محمد؟ مفهوم كيف الاسهم هون بتصير؟
يعني تقريبا اتجاه السهم هو حيكون التمرير، اتجاه السهم الاول اللي طالع من الاكس الابيض هو اللي حيكون ايش التمرير منه.
ايوه الاكس السهم بقول لك حركه السهم الازرق هو حركه القرص باتجاه وين. فهيك اول سهم اللي هو النقطه الاولى، السهم بروح الباص بيكون على الشمال، بعدين الباص بيكون لتحت.
النقطه الاولى السهم الاسود هو اللي بيمرر في الاول، اتجاه القرص من عنده بيكون للسهم الابيض.
الاكس الاسود بمرر للسهم صح. الاكس الاسود بمرر للابيض اول.
طب الثاني يعني نقطه التقاء بتكون شكل، يعني شايفها اكس اسود وابيض وفي سهمين، حتكون في ايش؟
وينك انت؟
الثانية اللي
90
هي
درجة؟
لا فكرت على الثلاثة.
لا الثالثة
سوري صح. الثالثة. فالابيض هو المعش الفرس، الازرق شايفين لانه في الخط الاسود هذا اللي عند الاكس الاسود بحكي لك انه هذا هو الهجوم مع الفرس. يكون هذا الاسود والخط الاسود هو الدفاع اللي عليه. وين الدفاع مسوي الفورس
السهم الاحمر هو التحرك حيكون.
أيوة.
معوش شيء
بيتحرك
الابيض.
الحركة. ايوه
دي يتحرك. فهمت. السهم الابيض تحرك، الازرق هو ايش اتجاه القرص.
صحيح. حلو محمد، صح. يمكن نحن لازم شرحنا الفرق بين السهم الاحمر والسهم الازرق والنوع الاكسين. الاكس الاسود شيرين they just didn't know what the blue X meant and the white X and the blue and the green. لازم هاي غلطة صح، لازم حطينا لكم ايش معنى هاي الحركات. اوكي طيب شيرين you want to show another. Do you use the same style for all of the graphs?
I kind of pulled them from a lot of places, but I mean this is pretty self-explanatory.
This is the same. الأحمر هو نفس الشيء اللي هو حركة اللاعب، كيف بيسوي الحركة الدورانية هاي.
This was more just an example of what you could draw on a whiteboard when you're explaining it.
هاي أمثلة ايش انتم تقدروا كمدربين تصيروا ترسموا على اللوح الأبيض كمان، بساعدكم كيف تستخدموا الأكس. إذا عندكم لونين بالفلوماستر تبعكم كيف تستخدموه. اي اسئله ثانيه؟ حابين نمشي على سلايد ثاني او فيديو ثاني قبل ما نخلص؟ بتخيل نفس الفكره هون، هاي كلها الاسهم الحمر، هاي كلها these are the same صح؟ ها نفس الشيء هون الحركه الاحمر، نفس الشيء هون.
Yeah, all of the red movements.
Yeah, okay, the same format. هون اوكي،
Yeah.
هون شايفين هون this is here. فهي عندك، فهي عنده هون حاطه هي الفرق. الاحمر هو حركه اللاعب، الازرق حركه الفرس، الاسود هو بيكون مع الفرس، والابيض هو الفاضي، الهجوم الفاضي.
والاكسات
دانيال
كلهم لاعيبه فاضيه بيكونوا.
هنا اللعيبه بيكونوا فاضيين. هاي اللعبه بدون دفاع.
دانيال عندي اقتراح صغير.
تفضل.
عشان في كتير أسهم، يعني مثلا الأحمر ما أنت بتحكي إنه هو التحرك، عشان يعرفوا التدريج تبعه حطوا مثلا إنه هذا السهم الأول، هذا السهم الثاني، عرفت علي؟ حط رقم 1 2
هو
هيك.
البلايسبيديا شايفين هدول، إذا شايفين هون بلاي شايفين كان بلاي ملفات البلايسبيديا كمان بتساعد في الخطوات هذه. هي بدها تعويض هاي الشغله، هاي صح، بدها توضيح شوي. بحاول اوضح لكم اياها لما اسوي الترجمه.
هي الشغله اللي بدها توضيح، تمام. يعني مثلا زي في الخرائط مثلا الاكس الابيض ينكتب قباله ايش السهم الاسود، قصدي الاكس الاسود زي هيك، السهم الازرق، السهم الاحمر زي ايش، يكون توضيح قباله في اول صفحه او في اول شيء. بس
طيب خلص بظبط لكم اياها. اسمعوا، عندي اقتراح لانه انا لازم اترك هلا. شو رايكم الجلسه الجاي انا بس اكون معكم، نحن نكون بس مع بعض بدون شيرين او كمان بدون لوجين، ونمشي مع بعض على هاي الامور كمان مره، على هاي السلايدات نمشي عليهم شوي شوي. يمكن استخدم كمان لوح ابيض انا افرجيكم كيف بتكون، وبعدين نرجع مع لوجين ب 4 على 12، وبعدين مع ايمن راح نخلص مع ايمن في 11 12. ايش رايكم؟ او بتفضلوا انه خلص نستمر الاسبوع الجاي؟ ايش راي المجموعه؟
هاي الشغله بدها توضيح شوي، ما بعرفش يعني. انا ممكن لو رجعت لهم تاني وركزت يوم تاني افهمهم وطبقتهم ممكن افهمهم، بس مش عارف الباقيين، يعني بدها توضيح كمان لسه لو نص ساعه
يمكن. طيب ايش راي الباقي؟ فتحي كنت بدك تحكي شيء؟
أقول أنا ما في مشكلة في النقاط، يعني لو نكمل عادي نفس الشيء ما في عندي مشكلة، وإذا حابين نوقف نعيدهم برضه ما عندي مشكلة يعني.
ايش رايكم راما وألين وحنا؟
شباب غزة ايش
بس
رايكم؟
بإيش كمان مرة ايش رأينا؟
على إنه نعمل كمان مرة،
يا نعمل هاي الجلسة أعيدها معكم، نحن نشتغل مع بعض كمجموعة كمان مرة الحد الجاي، يعني زي اليوم الأسبوع الجاي، أو إنه خلص نستمر نكمل الجلسة الجاي مع لوجين وبعدها مع أيمن ونخلص الجلسات ال5، أو نأجل لوجين وأيمن ونشتغل مع بعض على هاي الأسبوع الجاي.
هلا إحنا بالنسبة لنا هذا الإشي فاهمينه، وأنت بتعرف إنه إحنا طبقناه، بس بتوقع إنه لازم تعيدوا لهم إياها لأنه كتير كان في خربشة اليوم لإلهم. يعني أنا لولا إنه أنا فاهمة الأشياء ولا تعقدت.
طيب يعني أنت مرتاحين؟ راما وحنا كمان نفس الشيء؟
طبعا نفس الشيء، ما انت عارف يعني هاي التدريبات كلها بنسويها عندنا في بيت سحور معنا.
لا كثير من هاي جديد، كثير من هاي حنا كثير من هاي جديد عليكم، ما بتعملوا الطابور الأفقي.
بعرف بس فاهمينهم يعني،
بس احنا فاهمينهم دانيال، يعني
يمكن
صحيح
يمكن
في شغلات ما بتطبق بس احنا فاهمينها، يعني الشغله صفت لوجيك، يعني انت لما تسوي الشغله معينه باللوجيك صرت تفهم الشغله الثانيه تلقائي بدون ما تعملها.
صح.
صرنا فاهمين. ففيش بالنسبة لنا ما في داعي انك تعيدها كمان مرة، او ممكن تاخذهم يعني حصة تانية غير الأحد اللي تعود تعيد توضيح هاي الشغلات.
خلص تمام. إذا هيك بنستمر محمد وشباب غزة، بنستمر الأسبوع الجاي مع لوجين وبعدين مع أيمن، وأنا إذا حابين تعملوا شباب محمد وغيركم في غزة نشتغل مع بعض على هاي كمان مرة، أنا بكل جاهزية، يمكن خلال الأسبوع يوم الجمعة أو شيء نشتغل عليها مع بعض. طيب خلينا نخلص. إذا هيك أنا متأسف، اعذروني، لازم نضطر